Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to step back in time, all the way to the winter of 1831, to uncover the story of a young boy who, in the face of an incredible tragedy, was forced to become a man practically overnight. His story, well, it begins at his father's grave.
Okay, so picture this. January 19th, 1831. 13-year-old David Auble is standing at a freshly dug grave in rural New Jersey. It's his father's. The ground is so frozen solid that with every step, it sounds like glass is breaking under his boots. And for David, that was exactly the sound of his entire world just shattering.
With his father's sudden death, everything changed. David and his family were suddenly thrown into a reality that was, well, pretty much impossible. See, in the early 19th century, for a family with no patriarch, no man of the house, survival was absolutely not guaranteed.
I mean, you can just do the math. The family situation wasn't complicated, it was just brutal. 9 kids, a grieving mother, and absolutely no money coming in. In that kind of terrible equation, there's just no room left for something like a childhood.
You know, just a few weeks earlier, his father had said these exact words to him, probably after David had complained about chopping wood or some chore. But now those same words echoed with this horrible new weight. What was just a simple lesson about chores had suddenly become a prophecy for David's entire future.
So, facing complete destitution, David's mother had to make a really heartbreaking choice. It was a choice that was actually incredibly common back then, but one that would completely change her son's life forever. She had to find him an apprenticeship.
The word apprentice, this wasn't just a job title. It was a legal contract for 7 years. It meant leaving your home, basically surrendering all your freedom, and starting a life of grueling service, all for the hope of one day mastering a trade. For a boy like David, it was the end of being a kid, period.
That 6-mile journey to the town of Newton, you have to imagine it was the longest walk of David's young life. He was now bound to this notoriously tough master, carrying next to nothing, and he knew he wouldn't earn a single penny for years. And all the while, I bet his mother's words were just haunting him. Send what money you can spare. Money he had absolutely no way of earning.
So his new home, this shoemaker shop run by Samuel Griggs, it wasn't some warm, welcoming place. No, it was a cold, demanding, and frankly brutal environment. Every single day was a lesson in hardship, in precision, and in the unforgiving nature of his new craft. David's life just fell into this relentless cycle. Up before dawn, nothing was ever wasted, especially not his time. He was learning to take apart old boots just to save the nails. He wasn't just being taught how to make shoes, he was essentially being broken down and rebuilt from the ground up. Every single task was designed to forge him into a craftsman.
And you could literally see this transformation happening, right there on his hands. The soft hands of a boy who went to school became blistered, then they bled, then they hardened into tough calluses. They were becoming the hands of a worker. The hands of someone who could make things, someone who could survive.
Okay, so after months and months of this grueling work, David's master, Samuel Griggs, he decides it's time. Time to see if all that sweeping and sorting and suffering had actually taught this boy anything of value. It was time for a test.
This, right here, was Griggs' whole philosophy. For him, making shoes wasn't just a business, it was this sacred trust. The belief that a well-made shoe is a fundamental promise to the person who wears it, well, that was the entire basis for the test he was about to give David.
And this was it. This was the moment. No more practicing on worthless scraps of leather. This was a piece of fine, expensive material for a real customer's boot. The pressure had to have been immense. One slip of the knife, one tiny moment of hesitation, and this costly piece would be completely ruined. This was the real deal. As David picks up the sharp knife, his hand trembles, and his master, seeing that hesitation, just cuts right through the boy's anxiety with this sharp, direct question. He wasn't just asking about the leather, was he? He was asking if David finally believed in himself.
And in that moment, Griggs gives David the single most important lesson of his entire apprenticeship. And it was a lesson that had nothing to do with technique and everything to do with character. Trust yourself. Trust the work you've put in. Don't let fear be the thing that makes you fail.
So David takes a breath, steadies his hand, and he makes the cut. Griggs picks up the piece of leather, inspects it from every single angle, and then he says this one word. Now, from a man as tough and as stingy with praise as Samuel Griggs, acceptable was basically a standing ovation.
That one word, acceptable, that was the whole turning point. It wasn't just about a piece of leather. It was the moment that a grieving, homesick boy started to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could actually do this. It was a change that started from the inside out.
The pride from that one tiny success, it began to heal some of those deep wounds of loss. For the very first time, he wasn't just David Auble, the boy whose father died. He was David Auble, the apprentice who could cut fine leather. He felt capable.
And you know, that single defining moment in that cold workshop, it really became the foundation for the rest of his entire life. He finished his 7 years, he became a master shoemaker himself, and eventually a respected businessman and a father. And it all started with that one acceptable cut.
And so, the boy with the calloused hands, he finally truly understood the full weight of his father's words. It wasn't about grim obligation. No, it was about finding the strength within yourself to meet your responsibilities, and in doing that, finding out who you really are.
David Auble's story is such a great reminder that the most profound journeys in our lives are often the ones we don't choose, but the ones we're forced to take. It just shows how real hardship can forge real character, and how sometimes a single necessary step is the beginning of a life well lived.